Today you are going to make use of that calmness to do some thinking in the right way. So ultimately it is the thinking part, mano, that has to be cultivated when the mind is calm. So this is why in this book 1, the first book, turn to page 35. Awareness of the realities of life. So we should begin to focus on the realities of life. It is by focusing our attention on the realities of life that the calmness that you cultivate can be preserved. The ultimate aim is to maintain the calmness. That is the meaning of nirvana. Nirvana is the non-shaking of the mind. So the non-shaking can be continued only by thinking in the right way. So you should go through this, the logic of this reflection. We are biological organisms in an environment. So we have to see, as I said earlier, that when we are born into this world, it is the body that is born into the world. And in this body, that body is called the organism. Body is a collection of organs. It's like a machine. Just as the clock will turn in the right way and tell us about the time, different parts begin to move. So in a similar way, the body is like a machine that begins to work in a certain way, dependent on conditions. So we don't call the body a machine, but we call it an organism. Organism is a biological machine. So you see, and this biological organism is in an environment. Certain movements in the environment will affect one of the senses in the body. There are 5 senses: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the body. So light is a movement in the environment which will influence the eye. Sounds is a movement in the environment which will influence the ear. Smell is also movement in the environment which will influence the nose. Taste is a movement in the environment which will influence the tongue. Touch is also a movement in the environment which will influence the body. So these are movements in the environment which will affect the different sense organs. And the sense organ reacts to the stimulus. And that reaction is what we call seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. So we must look at the body in that way. Our body is an organism that exists in the environment. There is no mind that exists within or outside the body apart from the body itself. What we call the mind is only an activity of the body. All activities of the body are dependent on the natural laws that govern all mechanical objects, whether natural or man-made. All that we know is an experience. Seeing is an experience, hearing is an experience, smelling is an experience, tasting is an experience, touching is an experience. All experience is a product of perception and conception. Perception is the activity of the sense organ, and the brain does the thinking and form a concept. All that we experience is either an activity is really an activity. Human beings experience 3 kinds of sensations: pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. They are attracted to the pleasant, repelled by the unpleasant. And the neutral, of course, we don't We are not attracted or repelled, but we become aware of existence. The emotional reaction breaks the experience into two parts, the subjective and objective. The subjective experience we tend to personalize as mine, me, or myself. The objective is alienated as not mine. So this creates a distinction between a self and a world. And with the coming of this distinction, a relationship begins between the subjective self and the objective world of people and things. The relationship is emotional. The emotional relationship begins the suffering, full of likes and dislikes. Thus continues the suffering in the form of pleasure, now, there are three characteristics about this experience: anicca, dukkha, and anatta. All phenomena are activities, sankhara, dependent on conditions. Now we are talking about phenomena. What is phenomena? Whatever we have created by the process of perception and conception is what is called the phenomena. That word phenomena means the objects created by the process of perception and conception. And all these phenomena that we have created is subject to beginnings, change, and end. It begins, it changes, and ends. And if it is beginning, changing, and ending, it is not a real existence. Existence is a static concept in a dynamic reality. So that means existence is not a reality. It is only an experience. So all that I call mine and myself are mental constructs. These mental constructs are of two kinds, subjective and objective. The subjective part is personalized as myself. The objective part is alienated as the world and the things in the world. So you should go through these things very slowly and try to understand this. Try to go through these statements that itself is a meditation to keep on thinking about this. Keep on thinking about this, and that will be your meditation. This goes on up to page 47. Up to page 47. You start with the page 35 and end with 47. So keep reading that and try to understand what is all that. So that will be your meditation today. When you are tired of thinking about that, you sit and focus on the breath and relax and calm down. But try to understand what those words are trying to explain. So it's very important to understand that properly and get it into your mind.